Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. No decisions made. I did. So we're back to Resolution 1810.
Yes, here a while back, Charles Peckham sent this over, but about a quarter of the page is facts, so it's an actual resolution that we needed to do, and it's the same one we do every year.
For the solid waste.
Yes, it's I think we approved it and you signed it, but we didn't know it was a resolution because of the missing information.
Okay, do I hear a motion to go ahead and approve Resolution 1810, which is the agreement with the Northwest Kansas Small Solid Waste Landfill Authority.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
And then we have the PBC bond disbursement request number 8. Do what?
I said that wasn't addressed to us, it was addressed to you, you could pay it.
Okay, need a motion to go ahead and approve this disbursement request for a total of $551,681.10 to Hutton Construction, CGID LLC, and the Grace Team.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's CGI, are they the engineers?
Yes. I missed this last week. I think Ed brought this fair board application. Last meeting, not last week. Feels like last week.
Country Town gave me that submarine, so I did. But I've never seen this guy. If I did, I didn't know anything.
Scott, did you ask Dolores on this? If there were any delinquent taxes? And are there?
Nope.
Okay.
Can we send this to the fair board?
If we approve it, he'll be appointed to the fair board.
Do let the fair board see it first, or we just approve it?
That's a pretty good question. To me, the application should go to the fair board, and the president of the fair board bring it to us. Why don't we do that? Make sure it gets to Troy. And then they can have recommendations or. Right.
Well, at least we'll be following proper protocol.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's get this to Troy.
Okay.
All right, Dave. I think we're ready for you.
They're the ones that gotta work with you.
Well, that's usually the process, it's given to the fair board, and the fair board.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Morning. We'll move over here. We need to have the city and Dave also involved in our conversation here, but
Okay.
I guess the one thing was where we're at on the airport project. It's being finished up now, basically reseeded, and then the SPOR and the FAA part of the project will be finished. And we still have a drainage tube to put in, which Dave through the county has got. Well, I think it's here now.
It's here now.
And so to put that in, and then there's a little bit of road work, dirt work to still finish up, so that we're there and ready to build and get going that way. So
Okay.
then we wanted to also talk about, of course, in the capital improvement fund. The funds are there according to the figures that I get from the treasurer.
Treasurer's office.
And so we're good that way. Then coming on to the budget for next year, the Airport Commission has taken a vote and not to purchase snow removal equipment at this time. And so we basically don't have anything planned for next year. So with the funds that are in there, we're asking to, keep the funds in there if you can. We would appreciate that for future projects, because there are plans, but we don't have any plans for this next year. Okay. So we're not asking for any money. Surprising, huh?
Yeah, you'll be a first. And that sounds great. If you can get us what you would like as far as budget soon,
Okay.
because we need to sit down and have a budget workshop
Did I send
anyway.
you that, or
Excuse me?
did I send you a budget sheet?
No.
Okay, I'll get that.
Okay, because really all we really need then for this next year would be the normal operating budget, which I think is, 22,000 or whatever it is.
Okay.
So, but I'll get you the 5-year plan
Okay.
sent to you, and then just the normal operating budget for this next year will be sufficient. If you can help us out that way, we'd appreciate that.
We'll find out shortly.
Yeah.
Within the next few weeks, anyway.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And if you're gonna hold your funds over for next year, come in at the end of the year and fill out and encumber your funds.
Okay.
That's in there now.
Okay.
Otherwise,
So-
you'll lose
To
So-
transfer them to.
next year.
Oh, okay. And that happens at the end of December then, to transfer funds to next year.
First of the year, yeah.
So then, is that automatically going to happen, or do I need to come in
It's
and
just a form.
just a form?
You'll have to fill it out or you lose it.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for telling me
You
that.
can get it from Dolores
Okay,
or Scott, either one.
okay. Can we do it now and send it in or whatever.
Yeah, go over and ask them, I wouldn't know.
Okay. Okay, sounds great. Okay, then the next part, excuse me, I might have interrupted you.
No, you're good, Dave.
Okay. The next part is, with the apron project, we also added a new hangar area, and we have 2 hangars committed to get built. It's Devin and myself. And we're, I guess, needing help getting utilities to that area. I mean, I've talked to JR and to Dave, and we just need to come up with some solution to get utilities there. And I did talk to the gas company, and they need to know how many BTUs or whatever each hangar is going to use, so they'll know what to get there. And I'm not familiar with that enough to know how many BTUs does a heater take, but we'll get it figured out and get that to him.
Okay.
Then one help that we did turn in was to the state to help with utilities. At that time, we find out that it's going to cost way more than what we had turned in. So we had turned in a help for $36,000. These are $36,000 or $38,000 to the state. The state will pay 90% of that. So for $36,000 of the expense, $3,600 would be local out of the airport budget. And so we've got that part planned for. Then from there, we've got to figure out how to get water, electricity, and then of course the gas. We were hoping for sewer, but it sounds like sewer is going to be price prohibitive.
For it to be city mains, now it could be tapped, just like we're talking about doing with the water. That's possible. In order for it to be a city, originally it was proposed to the city as an improvement that would be made and that the city would have ownership. There wasn't really any talk about who pays for it. But in order to do that, it has to be an engineered project. For sewer and water to go that a quarter of a mile, I think, total distance from the point of origin is roughly $200,000 for sewer and water. That was the number we got from our engineer that we use all the time. And of course, that throws up lots of flags. That's a lot of money and way over what he's got. Additionally, there is currently not a right-of-way there, right? Is that right? But whatever the case, through talking about this with the city council, I mean, they're obviously not in favor of just paying this out to extend these utilities to out of city limits. And I think Dave and a couple council members and myself have since kind of moved on to possibly just tapping at the main and having them have their own water line that they would then place and maintain from that point. I think that's probably the only way we're going to get around a large expense. The downside of this is if we was to do this, we was hoping to tie in for fire protection into the village, which would actually help that on fire protection. In doing some more research on what lays up there, we can do that another way. So I still think the best way is for them to tap and run their own system through their own right-of-way, however.
And so that would then be the responsibility of the airport board
Yes.
and ultimately the county.
Correct, yes. And with the sewer's not something that you can just put one in. I mean, you might be able to put a tap in. That's something they would have to research as far as whether they want to run a sewer tap that long. I think it might work. So the sewers, I think, isn't quite as important to them. The water is. Electric is much closer. It's about 600 feet off, and I think we can do that somewhere in the $10,000 to $12,000 range and just do that in-house from the city. I don't know where the city council would stand as far as that cost, but I'm pretty sure that's what we could do it for.
So then, would the electricity be kind of the same as the water and the sewer? If we could, hire an individual to, have you say, put a meter on the pole, and then we go underground to the new hangar area with a private, because we can get that done for way less than $10,000.
That's all I'm looking at is poles and transformer. I'm not even throwing very little labor into that. to put primary over there. You're gonna get into fairly, depending on, and that's something we need to talk about, the size of the transformer. So I'm just trying to throw a number out there I know we can do it for. We have done electrical improvements in the past at the city's cost, and I don't think it's beyond reason to at least ask them formally for that, because that's the one that we can actually recover some costs on. Because that's probably what we would do, is run underground to a transformer that's up there.
So that would not be paid by the airport commission? I mean, is what you're saying, there's a possibility?
There's a
Yeah.
possibility,
Yeah.
yes. Because the electric utility is the one thing we can actually recoup cost on. So,
And that's bring your electrical to a certain point, then they have to tap on from there.
yeah, that was, what that was is because David talked about additional improvements within the area. Well, you can't just run a service line up to there. You would need a transformer in the area, so you're not undersizing the underground. So that's why I was looking at either burying or building a line up to that point and putting a transformer in that corner. That's what that cost is for. It's not just to turn your lights on. I mean, that would be for, a transformer would have to be placed regardless. But you'd be real limited on any improvements if that transformer was all the way back at the line.
It's been kind of frustrating to try to get all these things there.
Well, there's so much into it that you don't think about it
Well,
on
that's
the
right.
face value. I mean,
And probably looking back, it's maybe something we should have done prior to even starting to place the hangars there. I just assumed that it would be everybody would be excited to have a new business in town and new hangars and development, county development. Which would bring in tax income to the county and water income to the city and so on, but it's just kind of doesn't seem
You're
to
right,
flow
Dave, but
easily.
at the same time, we've had a lot of businesses come into town.
Really?
Well, Dollar General,
Yeah.
okay. We're having a car wash go in now. We had a liquor store go in. We got Kyla Crates that put in a meat market. They're paying for their own utilities. I don't understand how you ever thought that we were going to lease you land and then take you utilities. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry. It does not make sense. I'm a taxpayer, and yes, we're developing the community and we're going to gain more tax dollars, but that's just not the way this world ought to work. If you're going to build a hangar, you ought to expect to pay for the utilities. And if you want to build a hangar and you want to run a business, pay for the utilities.
It's just yes, we do expect to, and we expect to hook it up, but it's just like the meat market and all the electricity, everything is there. It is provided. They pay to get it into there. This is kind of like a new development. I mean, it's
Well, then we should have been discussing this before you ever did it.
we did.
Oh, boy, I didn't hear no. But
I mean, I met with the
I just
commissioners
know that
numerous times
we're going to meet a lot of resistance.
do you have some baseline numbers?
Well, that's what we've been trying to get, but all
Trying to get to
I've
that
got
part.
is $200,000, which is ridiculous.
No, you got 70,000, which is
And
just
then
the
we
water.
got 70,000 for water, which is ridiculous too. So, I'm kind of
Yeah.
needing help.
Well, you can understand our position too.
Oh, yeah.
We've got it. Because we're going to have somebody come up and say that was preferential treatment. It's just it's going to happen.
Plus, we're on a tight budget.
Yeah, we really are.
Sure. But if we can get water there, if we can have the city hook onto the water with a meter, and we pay to get the water up there,
And that's $70,000 is an engineered project, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the number for that. I mean, if you
Yeah,
guys
you
do
thought that.
we place a meter at the main and you do whatever you want from that point on.
and that's
however you do it.
$70,000.
No.
No.
If the city did the whole project, engineered,
Right.
it's kind of an inflated cost, but that's $70,000 for the city to do that is.
That would be the
Right.
city taking ownership after it was built. If we just place a meter at the main, which is right at Highway 36, and they run a service line to that meter, The only cost the city has in that is that meter. That's,
Right, and then so either the airport board or us are gonna have to absorb that cost, regardless of who puts it in, whether it's,
and I would absolutely admit it's going to be far below 70,000. The engineered projects and the oversight and the things required for us to take ownership.
right, so they
really-
could find a contractor of their own
Yes.
to come in and
Yeah,
place
that's
that
our-
line.
And when there's a
Wait.
problem on that water line, on that side of the meter, it's the airport.
Belongs to, yeah.
Sure.
What happens when you have more than one business up there using water?
Well, and that's the thing too, if we, as an expansion area, to save cost, means if we're gonna pay for it, then we're gonna put the minimum in. The next guy comes along, then that's up to him. So we're gonna have 5 water lines coming off of there? Or are we gonna plan for expansion and, I can't tell you there's going to be, I don't know.
So that's kind of where we're at right now, is that's why we're having to tap a new line, is because it's already, the system that's up there is already overloaded. So, I mean, we already have an old system that is barely getting by. I mean, if that was sized correctly to begin with, we could have just come off that.
Yeah, but it's real hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube once you
No,
squeeze
but
it
that's
out.
why
Yeah.
we're,
In 1950, we didn't know there was gonna
Yeah.
be 2 new hangars built.
but we could still say in 2018, we didn't know there were going to be 4 more hangars built.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other hangars that are up there don't have water, don't have electric?
They do, but the system isn't big enough to come off of those.
So who bore that expense when those were put in?
So that original system, the entire Good Sam area, or the whole area up there, is all on a single meter. That is all privately owned. That whole water system, all the way from Highway 36 up there, those businesses that are up there have subtract meters on that system.
Okay.
So, and it's inadequate as it sets. That's why, like the fire protection, all those hydrants, those are actually on the metered system that is actually that large property area system. That's the one that I want to improve by doing the other thing, but that's why it's inadequate.
But my question is, when that was all done, who paid for that? Who paid for those water lines and electric lines when those hangars were built?
You'd have to do some research there.
The city's policy on that is the developer bears the cost, and then they take ownership if it's done to their specification.
Okay.
We just added a fire hydrant up there. I think the city furnished a fire hydrant, but we paid the installation, right?
Yes, and that's actually off of the 14-inch main, which is not part of the old system. That was to improve fire protection also, yes.
And the water pressure up there stinks.
Yeah. That's an elevation issue. It's been that way forever.
So bottom line is there any alternatives?
Well, we've talked about digging a well, that,
Just to
finding out,
provide
yeah,
for the airport, solely for the airport,
well, for the 2 hangars,
right, for that
Yeah.
facility.
right?
Any idea what that would cost?
Well, I talked to John, and he said it would be $20 a foot to dig the well, and then plus the casing and the pump and so on like that, so,
In the airport board, they're all on board with this project, and
we need to have because we've had a vote, and, to do the project was unanimous to go ahead with
But
the
have they
project.
approved these expenses?
What we've been trying to do is, find out how much the expenses are,
Okay.
and we've never, I don't
Because
know.
I think we would feel more comfortable if you were able, or the board would, in my legal opinion, if you were able to get these numbers, pin down exactly what you want to do, and go to the airport board and present it to them in regards to these expenses. And if they give the approval, then to come back to the commissioners to present what has been done thus far and the cost, and then a decision could be made.
yeah,
I think that would probably be the best course of action.
you could have a couple of proposals, say
Okay.
well versus city extensions, and
Okay.
give us something to
Right.
compare to.
Right. Well, yeah, we've tried to do that, but we've always come up with, crazy inflated figures as far as I was concerned,
Well,
but,
you're not alone there. I mean, everything is that way.
yeah.
we just originally we're under the understanding that it's gonna be $36,000. We got, who gave us that bid?
Well, I
That's-
met with JR and the gas company up there at the airport that day, and that was the estimate that came out.
Because that's
why
why we submitted that grant and for that specific number. And then if we would have known it would have been higher, we could have put in a
Could have
larger
adjusted
grant.
for it,
But
yeah.
we already got the 36,000. So we do have that money.
Okay,
Yeah.
why don't you get those figures down?
Okay.
And have a meeting with the airport board.
Okay.
Make sure everybody you have a unanimous,
Okay.
yeah, we would like to have this presented to the commissioners.
Okay.
And give us a couple options and
Okay.
we'll go from there.
That sounds good.
All right.
Have you got anything, Dave, anything else to, okay. And JR?
No.
No, we're good? Okay. All right.
If we need to, I'll either attend a city council meeting when you guys discuss it, or we'll invite somebody over and when we discuss it, and that way we got everybody on the same page.
Yep, sounds great. Okay, thanks a
you.
lot.
All right, thanks, Dave. Okay, Dave, JR?
Had you mentioned that intersection to them previously?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that intersection that Dave mentioned previously, that's a drawing of it. I don't know if you ever seen this.
We saw kind of a rough idea of what it
Of
College and North Street.
College and North Street, Fairgrounds, and then that angled road, county road that goes out. We did get 3 estimates, 2 local and 1 from Spore to do that work. We were in a hurry to get this done, but as it turns out, with the scheduled work for the asphalt being put on College Street, it's going to be after fair before we do this. But here are the 3 estimates, and I think what Dave and I had talked about, and I hope he mentioned that to you, was it's pretty much splits right down the middle of that, what's county and what's city, and was hoping that we would do the county half of that.
which is roughly,
And the estimate that I give you guys was the low bidder on that. That I showed them earlier.
Yeah, oh yeah, the original, pricing that had been given, he wanted to stick with it. What's that?
I say, how'd you come up with 7 inches thick?
Just for where it's at. It is thick.
You're figuring it's gonna wash under it if you don't go that deep.
What's that? Yeah, I'm just concerned, because it's a turn area. A lot of the reason I think we have truck traffic, I don't know, that thing has always been a bad thing, that transition. You're just turning through that area. People are hitting their brakes coming into it. It just seems like a good, if you're coming at it straight from everything and getting onto the concrete. So no, we did go a little bit heavy on it. Intentionally.
100,000 pounds on there, it better be thick.
Yeah.
what makes Spore's estimate a lot higher than?
I really didn't read into it. I just, he gave that estimate and asked me if he was competitive or if he could take his plant down. Obviously, I let him know he could take his plant down. I don't know. Do you? I didn't
hadn't
look
heard
any
either.
further into it.
I
was
thought
just
he
like,
may be
wow.
pretty competitive with it since he pulled the
That's what
plant
I
down,
had
but I think he had other projects and will probably bid it higher just so they keep
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't be here in August.
Correct. Yeah, they got to have that somewhere else, so they wasn't going to bring it back for their little project, so.
One comment, if you would hold on that thought, I just want to go back to Dave and Devin real quickly. The city has just a little bit of a concern for the fact that the 2 people at the end of the benefit are the ones representing the airport authority. Does that make sense? It's just, I don't know how else to say that.
And you're not the first one to say that.
Okay, I just wanted to say that because that's a discussion that we had
And
after
actually,
the fact.
those discussions have been going around inside the airport board itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason we're kind of insisting. We want information for the
Okay.
entire board.
Okay, yeah, and I don't want to be in the way of any kind of progress at all in any way, shape, or form, but
I
that's
don't
just a
either.
concern.
I don't either. Sometimes I'm a little blunt, but
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off track. I just want to mention that before I forgot about it.
so that drainage there, then you wouldn't replace it.
No, it's actually in pretty good shape.
They're going out to the cemetery.
Yes, that's correct.
You could go on down that road to the fairgrounds if you wanted. Would you pay half of it?
Not on that side of the line.
Drive down
Yeah.
and check the sewer and stuff.
You don't know what I'm here to ask for next, do you?
We may need a break here before we get to
So basically, they've accepted, the city council has approved the bids contingent on our approval as well to pay half.
On rock.
So they're,
Yes.
okay, that was my question. They're not leaving that decision to us. They've already made theirs.
We've said if the commissioners accept half the price, it's a go.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to go ahead and split this with a low bid, which is Brock McAtee Construction, for a total of $23,902.50, which would leave the county responsible for $11,951.25.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, got that back.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess the second item I had, the third was taken care of with the airport, just kind of clearing the air and getting everybody in the same room. The next thing I have is I'd ask the city council if I could get pricing on curb and gutter and improvements around Sawhill Park. And I went to go start measuring and looking at that and remembered that that's in fact county property. So therein lies the question. We are currently what we're working on, and we're trying to get some areas that the city is responsible for done so we can do street improvements. This is one of the worst one on Denison Street. If you go right through that intersection, it's really bad. The northwest corner of Sawhill, it's the curb and gutters broke up and the sidewalk is bad. I did get the council said, go ahead, get prices on it. We need to get that fixed so we can fix the street. They don't know I'm here for this, but I did want to come and talk to you and have a conversation. A lot of the reason is we're working on a solution for the entire city with residents. And as it sits right now, basically we just notify them you have to do it, and they can either do it, all out expense or have it put on their tax rolls. But
You're talking
one way or
about
another.
curb and gutter improvements.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you're going to do those before you do the road work?
That's correct. We got to have the base to work from
Okay.
in some of these areas. So, and if you do it after the fact, then you're patching it back in. Never quite goes right. So we're trying to do this on a large scale, but this was like a first step is to get this pricing, and that's all the more it is. I'm not looking for a decision, but I want to have at least a discussion because I'm not sure how good of a leg we'd stand on telling people that, you pay for your own, and we just went and put money into the curb and gutter on what is actually county property. And I'm also concerned with the courthouse park in the same way. So if nothing else, I'm still going to get the pricing of it, but I wanted to make you aware that I'm doing it and, make sure you do understand there's an agreement that Elton Keller signed in 1977 leasing that to the city for the maintenance and use. Now, in the wording, you can say maybe that is us. I don't know. But I didn't want to go do this without discussion with the commissioners first.
Well, we want to be treated just as fairly as any other resident inside the city. So
Can we put it on our tax roll?
I know what I was thinking.
And see, we haven't. There are ideas about sharing the cost because there's so much of it, and we can't do the street if you can't do it. And maybe that cost is too much for some people who live on a corner. So we're trying to work through those things, but that's as it sits. And like I said, I just wanted to come have that conversation and not stumble right into us putting, $10,000 or $15,000 worth of improvements on property that the city's doesn't own.
When do you project you want to start these projects?
Oh, as soon as we can, because they all have to be done prior to the street work, which we would hope to schedule the years to come. We're actually looking at bond issues possibly for doing street improvements. We just simply don't have the money. The cash is not there.
And that leads to my next point. We're coming up to budget time. So we're not going to really know what we're going to be able to afford until we can sit down and get work through our budget.
Right.
So those numbers will be critical.
Yeah.
As soon as you can get those.
Okay.
Is that 11,000 just come out of Road and Bridge?
Yes.
Okay.
On the intersection, yes.
I thought about that, I didn't even.
Just as a general thing on the curb and gutter, Brock has come up with a price of $25 a running foot to place it. That is not to remove it. I think it's going to be probably about $30. But he's actually got the forms to do it right and do it like it's supposed to be done. So that would be the likely place we would do it. That being said, I understand that the commissioners may have a policy on bidding over a certain amount that we may have to deal with too.
Yes, we'll need at least 2, and we'd appreciate 3.
Okay, so I think I'll use the working number. I mean, Brock kind of set the stage on these things to me. That I think he'll put out a number and stick with it, and then we can get additional bids before we do that.
Maybe I just didn't, did you say how many feet you thought we were looking at?
I do not. I just went to go look at it and start measuring it, and I thought it was more important to come talk to you guys before coming with, numbers.
You come up with the feet, then we're looking at about $30, maybe.
Yep. Part of the problem in that is when you have sidewalk that's out of kilter, that has to be done too. I mean, it's really, you step into that thing whenever the sidewalk is up against it, because that's your backing. You can't put a straight gutter on something and there is a little bit of that.
And so most of that comes from tree roots that are lifting those.
Watering, sandy soil shifts. I think it's almost more so from just shifting. That area's got sand on top of some real hard clay that shifts a little bit. But anyway, again, like I said, I wasn't trying to pin anybody down. As far as the council knows, I'm out getting estimates for the city to consider, spending, which we do have our own as well. So I'll get numbers. We'll have another conversation about it. Likely this is a multi-year thing, many years, forever. Hopefully we're setting a stage for a continuation of doing it and being able to fund it. We used to get federal money for streets. We get nothing now, and it's just that's what's left us in the condition we're in. So we have to try to move forward. So would appreciate you keeping that in mind, and I'll bring more information back to you as soon as I have it.
Make sure you keep all of us in the loop. That
Absolutely.
way there's no surprises.
Yep. Will do.
All right.
Do you have anything else for me to do?
I think that's
those
it.
2 items were it since the airports.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I just want to get copies of this.
I'll just get them from you.
Okay, that's fine.
5-minute break.
And that plan sheet, too, if that's good.
Let's do those long, 300 feet in the wall.
Yeah, I'll just catch up to you later. Thanks again.
Go on break.
I'm sorry.
You going on break, is that what you said?
Please.
That's fine. It's a high-pitched voice.
I was trying to get my grade school voice. Can we go to the bathroom?
How are you?
I need to keep.